What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about creative in Fortnite and why I think it is one of the most important things to take advantage of if you do want to improve in-game. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite creative map is. Or if you are someone who was on the fence about it before and started playing creative and saw improvement in your gameplay, comment that down below as well, because I'm interested to hear, and I'm sure people who are on the fence about it or don't like playing creative would benefit from seeing those comments as well. And we will get into some maps towards the end of the video, but this video is mostly going to be about like why you should play creative or why it's very helpful. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just that like regular battle royale matches are incredibly inefficient for improving in game for many reasons. The first is going to be that matches are pretty long and there can be a decent stretch of time between fights. A match is like 20 minutes long-ish, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And for the average player, 10 kills might be, a high kill game or like a very, odd occurrence. It's not something that they're getting on the regular. And that's 2 kills a minute, or 1 kill every 2 minutes. Sorry, I missaid that. But that 10 kills over a 20-minute match would be 1 kill every 2 minutes. And so that's like every 2 minutes you got in one fight, and it's not quite like that. Usually tend to get a cluster of kills in the early game, but just averaged out, that is very bad in terms of like time spent per engagement or per fight, and then also the penalty for losing a fight is also something that is very time consuming, because as soon as you lose a fight, you're going back to the lobby or you're spectating your teammates if it's a team game mode. Unless it's reload, obviously that's a little different. You can respawn and get in fight after fight after fight. But regular BR, as soon as you lose a fight, you're back to the lobby. And so you might have spent 5-10 minutes not really seeing anybody, maybe got 1 or 2 kills off spawn, looted up, and then the next fight you get in, you just lose. And so like you spent a lot of time to get going in the game, and then your game ended, and now you got to like restart that like kind of early game ramp up period where you're trying to get loot to continue to play the game. And then that even like RNG is also a factor in this. If you want to get better at using shotguns and you're not quite finding the shotgun you like, or you're not getting in fights that are suited for like improving shotgun fight like practice, that's also something that is, a factor. Like what loot you get and how the game plays out will have a huge impact on the type of fights you get, and certain matches just play out certain ways, and it is what it is. And so you're more limited on what you can actually practice because of the time in between fights, the penalty for losing a fight, and then also just the type of fights you get in. And then the final like kind of aspect of this is that people often really want to win, especially when they're newer players playing a battle royale. That is like one of the things people care about most. It's I want to get my first win, or I want to get my first win this season, whatever, And if you are playing to win, typically people are going to limit how many fights they're getting in. Like if you're playing to win, you're going to be playing a bit more safer. You're going to be playing less to get in fights, less risky, all of that stuff. And when that is what's happening and you're playing more safe and getting in less fights, you're getting less practice fighting. And then you're getting, you're going to improve less at fighting over time because you are playing more to win. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like it makes sense if you want to win to, play safer. But my point is, if you're wanting to get better at the game and improve as a player and get better at fighting, regular battle royale is just not a good place for that for many reasons that I just outlined, And if you're watching this channel, you probably want to improve. You know what I mean? Like it's always bizarre to me when people comment on a video that are like, I don't care about getting better. I just play for fun. And it's like, how did you click this video? So like when I make videos, I'm assuming the person watching wants to improve. So battle royale is just not a good, efficient time use if you do want to get better. And I think just creative is a lot better for improving as a player because it has the exact opposite problem. The time between fights is pretty much non-existent. It will depend on what map you're playing, but there's a lot of maps where you can just get in fight after fight after fight after fight. In 5 minutes, you could have gotten 30 engagements, and all of these engagements might not be the best kind of fight. It might have just been people jumping on you or whatever, but even still, just the amount of fights you can get in a much smaller period of time will have impact on your improvement as a player, I think, because a lot of fighting just comes down to mechanics. It comes down to aiming. It comes down to like quick decision making. It comes down to movement. And it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing these fights. Getting that practice in is, I think, a huge boost for like improving your skill quickly. So I think it's best to just play a bit of creative before you hop on to play regular matches. Even just like 10 to 20 minutes, I think can have a huge impact on your improvement. Like, let's say you're someone who's never played creative, you only play BR. Start playing creative, 5 to 10 minutes every time you play the game. Like when you first get on, there's less than 3 weeks left in the season. I think if you do that for the remainder of the season, you will be a significantly better player after having done that than you would have been in like an alternate reality where you didn't do that, And it is often an excuse I've seen people throw out before when this topic comes up, is that like, oh, I don't have 8 hours a day to spend in creative, so I can't get better at the game. And if that was what is required, obviously that makes sense. It is unreasonable to expect the average player to spend that amount of time in game. Even pro players, I don't think, are spending 8 hours a day every day in creative. Like, that is incredibly unreasonable. But people frame it that way because, like, they just don't like the idea of creative for whatever reason. It doesn't count towards stats. And also, like, they don't want to actually improve. But if you do actually want to improve, I think, small periods of time consistently over a long stretch of, like, real life time is what will actually improve you as a player. Like, I don't think the person who spends 4 hours now in one day is going to end up being much better than the person who spends 20 minutes a day for like a month straight. I think that doing it consistently over time has a large impact on actually improving, not just one kind of bulk session and then you're done. I also think doing this before you play regular matches, not only is it like just a nice way to like get your practice in for the day, to do it before you play regular pubs, but it also will help you be warmed up for when you do go into regular matches, and then you'll get more out of your regular matches. Again, regular matches are incredibly inefficient for like time spent compared to fighting. So if it's going to take you 10 fights before you feel warmed up and good for the day, why do that in regular matches when you can do that in creative and have it happen in less than 5 minutes, and then you're going to go into your regular matches and be ready to actually play the game? That's another thing where I've seen people criticize creative, where they say like, I just want to play regular matches, it's so boring. But like, I think also playing regular matches not warmed up and not playing well is also kind of boring and is a waste of your time in a sense if you do care about playing well and you do care about winning. So yeah, biggest recommendation, if I was to recommend one thing to a player to help them get better at this game, it would be use creative as a warm-up, play 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, like whatever period of time you want, Every time you play Fortnite before you play BR, and after a while of doing that, I think you'll be significantly better. This video is going to focus mostly on Zero Build though, because that's what my channel is. So the maps I talk about are going to be for Zero Build, and we're about to start talking about some of the maps. The first type of maps that are out there are going to be aim training maps. There will be codes for some maps in the description down below. But when it comes to aim training maps, I really don't think it matters which one you use. They all do basically the same thing. And even if you just scroll down in your Fortnite game mode selection, you'll probably have several aim training maps recommended to you. I know I do, at least. So these maps, I think, can be very good for new players or players who aren't really comfortable aiming yet, or people who just changed their settings. If you just change your sensitivity and you want to get used to it, this can be a decent kind of like low stress, low stakes way to do so. I don't use aim training maps very frequently. There is like the shotgun room in this map that I use pretty consistently every day before I stream, among other things that I do. But I don't spend long aim training at all. But I'm also someone who plays an absurd amount of the game anyways. I've played games on controller like my entire life. I've played multiplayer shooters online since like 2008. So like, I already have a decent level of mechanics as far as aiming goes, or like I have a lot of experience in that regard, to the point where I'm probably as good as I'm going to be. I think in spending time aim training, I don't think is really going to change that. But if you are newer to playing the game, or you're newer to like an input method, maybe you started on controller and now you're going to mouse and keyboard, or you change your settings or something like that, I think for those players, using some of these aim training maps can be pretty helpful. But personally, I don't use them very much. The type of maps that I think are going to be most beneficial for most players is going to be fighting maps, and these are also the maps that typically are the most enjoyable or the most fun to play. The reason why I think these are so beneficial is because of what I was talking about earlier with how long it takes in BR for a match to play out and how many kills the average person ends up getting. In these creative maps, you can get in that amount of fights so much faster. And I think also a lot of newer players are kind of stressed and nervous and scared fighting. And I think the easiest way to get over that is just to get into a lot of fights, and these maps allow you to do that much faster. And so there's going to be two types of maps I recommend that I think are out there. There's casual fighting maps, and then there's a bit more like competitive fighting maps. The casual fighting maps are going to be something like red versus blue or the pit. I'll have clips of some of these on screen now. Anytime I've ever played one of these red versus blue maps, I think it is incredibly bad practice. Like, the players I've seen in here are just not very good at all. Even the Zero Build pit, it's a step up, I think, but it's still just not very good players typically. And the fights can be pretty chaotic and kind of random at times. But like I already said, don't stress like the outcome of the fights. Like, the point is to practice and get in fights. If you're overly scared about like keep staying alive or, you know, winning the map, I don't think that's a good mindset to have. But either way, that's why I called them casual maps. I think if you're a newer player or an average player or below average player, you can probably benefit a lot from playing some of these low stakes casual fighting maps. If you are someone who's like above average or a pretty good player, you're probably not going to benefit that much from playing the Zero Build pit or playing red versus blue. You might, in the sense of just like warming up and getting your aim feeling good for the day, you know, but I don't think you're going to improve as a player playing these maps unless you're someone who is already, you know, or unless you're someone who isn't very good already. So if you play the Zero Build pit, and this is something that's been interesting to me when I've made these videos, is people will comment and be like, oh my God, it's so sweaty in there, I can't even play the game. But my experience and people I know who are decent at the game's experience is that like, it's very casual in there, and like maybe there's one or two decent players typically, but that's it. So if you're newer to the game, if you're below average, these maps I think can be really good in catching you up and getting you in a lot of fights quickly and improving you. If you're already very good, I think you can kind of like maintain skill in here or kind of warm up for pubs for the day or whatever. But I don't think you're going to go from like a 7 to a 10 playing some of these maps, you know, but you might go from like a 3 to a 6. I guess that'd be a pretty good way to word it, and like a simplified way to word it. The next maps are going to be more competitive fighting maps. And what I mean by that is the players tend to be better. These are going to be the rapid 1v1 and 2v2 Zero Build maps. I'll have codes for them in the description below. The gameplay I got on these for some reason today was not very good. Like the fights weren't the greatest, but in the past when I've played these maps, the players in here tend to be much better than what I would encounter in red versus blue or the Zero Build pit. That's why I was saying these maps would be better for actually improving if you are someone who wants to. But it basically is just a simulated 1v1 or 2v2 fight depending on what map you're playing. These maps do have matchmaking, so you can load in and play with random people. Or if you wanted, you could play with your friends. If you're getting on to play duos, maybe run the 2v2 map together before you play. And again, that would be a warm-up to help you improve at the game for one, and then also warm up so y'all end up doing better in the matches that you're going to play anyways. And it can just be fun. Like I said, though, these maps tend to be a bit better. Like, my matches today were weird. If you just want to, if you're by yourself, you can play the 1v1 map, or you could run 1v1 versus one of your teammates if you wanted. If you're playing squads, y'all could run 2v2s versus each other before you play. And again, this is like a decent way to practice and improve. If you find these maps to be too sweaty or too competitive, I would recommend running it versus your friends. But if you feel like it's difficult but not too insanely difficult, then using the matchmaking can also just, you know, match you against some decent players and help you improve. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this video helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.